What is up? So, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Think Big podcast. We're on episode 47. 47 consecutive weeks nonstop. This show has been running. That is almost a year. In just a few weeks, we will be at the 52-week mark. We will have hit a year, which is just shout out to Alejandro. I think he is the only man on this camera right now who has not missed even a single episode, period. So, Mr. Alejandro, we appreciate you. We just want to give you the MVP award. The trophy's in the mail, so it'll be there. Give it another week. And tonight I'm excited. We're going to be talking about we're going to be doing general Q&A. We're going to be opening it up, bringing on people to answer their questions in the comments, engaging with everybody. And before we get into that, I'm ready to kind of jump into a topic. I don't know if y'all want to
let's do it.
Jump into a topic, but I'm good to go. I'm good to run into a topic. Like I could just,
Don't do it. Run it, bro. Run that.
All right. So, the reason I want to jump into a topic is for the past, I would say maybe 2 or 3 weeks, something interesting has been happening in my life, which is I've been getting a lot of phone calls and text messages from my private money lenders. Most of them good. Actually, all of them good. All of them are good. I'm grateful to say. And interestingly enough, of those calls, I only have one of those people has their money out with me in the deal right now. The other few were reaching out about, hey, I want to lend with you, right? Like they were actually reaching out to me saying, I want to lend. Do you have any other deals? And I was letting them know, like, hey, I have some things coming up, but just out of curiosity, what have you been up to? What's going on? And this has been a reoccurring theme. They're saying that I don't trust anybody else right now. I want to talk about this because right now, people with money are not trusting other people to give their money to. And a lot of people are doing a disservice to themselves, their business, and their lenders by not understanding lending etiquette. And I just want to quickly take 2 minutes to talk about the fact that when people are lending, it's based on a relationship. Yes, it's based on a deal. However, 90% of it is based on relationship. And if you're not understanding that and you're looking to borrow people's money, you are doing yourself a disservice. You're doing the industry a disservice. You're doing the community a disservice because you want to be able to raise capital. Raising capital is one of the most important skills to have. In fact, I would say that, have you ever tried going to an auction without any money in the bank or without any money in your wallet? You probably haven't because it'd be a waste of time. It'd be the fastest way to waste everybody's time. Your time, the people selling things, their time, because their intention is to sell and you want to be able to buy. So as a real estate investor, as a business owner, I want to be able to show up with money in my pocket. Imagine this. Imagine I went to the mall and I had $1 million in my pocket to spend. That million's burning a hole in my pocket and I have the ability to spend it. And I walk into any store I want, Michael Kors, Louis Vuitton, doesn't matter where I go, Burberry. I wouldn't feel any pressure by any of the salespeople on what I need to buy, on making a decision, because ultimately when I walk into that store, I already know what they want and I have a lot of it. They want the money that's in my pocket and I've got a lot of it. So there's not this pressure to perform because I already know what they want from me. So I get to choose and cherry pick and pick the best deals. And this is the power of raising private capital. This is what it does for you as an investor, as a business owner. It allows you to go into the marketplace because you now have access to capital. And by raising capital in my own business, it allowed me to chillax and cherry pick deals because I knew when I saw the deal, I had the ability to buy and I was only going to spend the money on the things that really made sense. And the reason people were giving me that money, the reason they were giving me the access was because of how I was taking care of the relationship, how I was taking care of them. I treated their money like I would treat my own. In fact, I treated their money better than I would treat my own. The communication was top notch. There's always an open line of communication. In fact, even after this podcast today, I'm going to be getting on a phone call with one of my lenders because he just called me and I said, hey, because we're always communicating. I'm like, hey, listen, I know you just called me, but I'm about to jump onto Think Big podcast. And can I give you a call back when we're done? He said, yeah, not a problem. Right? It's a relationship. I'm not just taking their money without taking them into my life and into my world. So the three things that I do to raise private capital, because some people are always wondering, like I had a conversation with somebody earlier today too, and they were asking, how do you go about raising private capital? It's really, in my opinion, what I do is three basic steps. When I thought down and diluted, what do I do to get money to come into my world? And first thing, I'm sure Sam and Alejandro could agree with me on this, is the first thing I do is I put myself in the room with people that have money. I know that's real complicated, guys. It's the same as like a business. If I'm gonna go and sell widgets, I got to put myself in the room with people who want to buy widgets. So I actually have to go and put myself in places. And nowadays, with internet and social media and YouTube and Facebook, it's easier than ever before to go and put yourself in the room with people who potentially earn money, who are doing things that you're gonna think, hey, it's most likely that if I'm in a room full of dentists, that these people who have six-figure jobs, it's most likely that they have some disposable investable income. So I want to go and put myself in the rooms where people are most likely to have capital that they want to put to work. That's the first thing I do. Now get creative, because here's the truth. More rooms than you think have money waiting in it for you. So begin getting into those rooms. And when you're in the room, you're going to do the second thing, which is begin to establish yourself as an authority. How do we do that? Simple. I give. I give value in a way that I know how to authentically give value. I want to go into this space. I want to look at what am I good at? Like if I were Alejandro, I would go and I would give value in the ability of how to negotiate. I would teach people inside there how I'm negotiating, or I would teach people, I would look for a need. Maybe all these people inside this room want to start filming content, but they have no idea how to set up their studio. And Alejandro could say, listen, I know how to set up a studio. And he can establish himself as an authority. The mistake a lot of people think they have to do is establish themselves as like the number one investor in the world. No, establish yourself as an authority in whatever you're good at to show people that you have the capacity to stay focused, disciplined, and get good at your craft. Interestingly enough, most times it doesn't actually matter what your craft is, because you're going to see that it crosses over boundaries. If I meet with somebody and I told you, hey, I got a friend of mine and he's in the NFL, instantly you're going to have credibility with him, because you're going to see, oh, inside of football, he rose to a high level. And I say, he's going to be my partner on this next multifamily deal I'm buying. You're immediately going to assume he's already a high level individual because he went to a high level in one area of his life. But if I said, hey, I got this buddy of mine, he works at Target, right? He does the janitorial work at Target. He's going to be the partner on my deal. Instantly, you're already like, I don't quite trust it. I don't quite trust him. When we start to establish credibility and we start to establish authority, it puts us in a position to give people value and to build rapport, rapid rapport at scale. So when I go into that room, I want to establish credibility. Now, if you already have experience in doing deals, that's going to be the fastest way to build credibility and to build authority, is by simply sharing your wins. And for the people that don't like to brag and want to be humble, I'm all about not bragging and I'm all about being humble. However, if you don't share your wins, this is going to be a time where you have to be your own cheerleader for a little bit in the beginning. You do have to share what's going on in your world, because if you don't, how are people supposed to know? Right? Like I need to know that Sam is closing deals in order for me to trust that Sam can close more deals. So it's important that Sam shares it, because I'm not standing by him day by day, minute by minute, looking over his shoulder. So if Sam doesn't announce it to the group, if he doesn't let us know what's happening, we're just going to assume that he's not doing anything. So as you're actually doing deals, begin to share what you're up to. Inside those groups, inside those places, people will then begin to flock towards you, because winners want to work with winners. So the people that have the expendable cash, the people that have that extra money to loan, they're winners in their own right. They might be a winner as a doctor or as a lawyer, or they might just have saved their money for the last 30 years, and that's their version of winning. And so they view themselves as a winner. Winners want to be with other winners. So after you establish yourself as an authority, and I mean, I'm not going to go deep on any of these, because I can literally break these into a masterclass each piece. But I want you to do this. When you start the conversation, after you establish yourself as an authority, you're never going to ask them for money directly. You're going to ask them, when you have the conversation, whether it's one-to-many in a group or one-on-one, you're going to ask them if they know other people who would be interested in lending. Ask them, hey, you know, this is what I've been up to, right? I just kind of shared with you this victory that I had on my real estate deal. I just shared with you what I'm up to. Do you know anybody who'd be interested in a deal like this? Like, what do you think about these numbers? Ask them for their opinion or for their referral, not for their money. Because when you ask them for their opinion and referral, you're allowing them to look at the deal without any pressure, understand what the returns could potentially be for an investor. And what's going to happen 9 out of 10 times is they're going to say, well, I'd be the lender on that deal. Oh, really? You? I didn't think you'd want to lend on this. Well, you know, I mean, I can see if we can fit you in here. This is how I've gone about raising private capital. It truly has been putting myself in the right rooms, establishing myself as an authority by giving value and sharing the things that have worked well in my business, the victories I've already had up until this point, and then asking people for their referrals and opinions. And then when I get the money, oh my gosh, treat the money like it is the most valuable thing on the planet, because it is to that person. And so what that I mean, treat it like it's their kid and you're babysitting. You're going to give them updates. You're going to establish when those updates will come, but you're going to keep the line of communication open. Now, if you've got a hovering helicopter parent, you might not want their money. I want the parent who's cool with their kid going to school and cool with checking in on the kid when the kid comes home, but doesn't need to check in on the kid while the kid is sitting in second period. You want to establish upfront what sort of updates you're going to be giving your lenders and what sort of line of communication you're going to expect as a standard and what they can expect as a standard. And if they're not okay with that, you don't take their money. Because if you do, now you're at fault. So if you say, man, this person's so annoying, that's your problem. Because if that person starts speaking ill about you and they start to say you're a terrible person to lend to, you will immediately lose all that credibility and authority you spent time building. And key thing here, don't make up your credibility. If you don't have any credibility, borrow some. Go and partner with a guy like Sam or Alejandro and leverage someone else's credibility. My partner and I, because now you're building credibility by essentially positioning yourself. You're building authority through positioning. I'm standing next to Sam, so now I get some of Sam's credibility. As long as Sam has given me permission to leverage him that way. If he has not done that, I'm not going to go to a meetup one day, meet Sam, take a picture with him, and then start telling people me and Sam are partners, and Sam and I have never had a conversation. These are the things that I do personally to raise private capital. This has allowed me to raise over $1 million of private capital, which really isn't a lot of money. However, a lot of people could benefit from having access to an extra $1 million in their portfolio, in their war chest, to go out and purchase assets. In fact, you really don't need a lot of money to go and build a portfolio, because if you understand the game of leverage, you understand you can take that little stockpile of $1 million and you can reuse that money over and over and over and redeploy the same capital. So you really don't need a ton of capital. You just need to build relationships with your capital and have access to it consistently, and then be choosy, cherry pick your deals. So I'm done talking about this because we got to open it up to Q&A. But that is ultimately that's been a reoccurring topic that I've been having in private over and over and over with people. So I figured, hey, let's come online and let's just talk about it on the podcast for a moment.
Dude, I mean, that's it's an important thing, and I wanted to hit on this because I think this is also what's struggling for a lot of people. What's the difficulty for a lot of people is every deal going to go perfectly? No. Nope. Stuff happens, right? We do the best that we can as operators in terms of vetting out a deal, doing our due diligence, projecting with margin, all these kinds of things. It doesn't stop the fact that a squatter is going to come in and tear the place up and rip out the wiring, and it's going to set back our hold time by 2 months or whatever, right? Or a pool that looked okay now needs $10,000 worth of fixing to it because it needs draining, it needs acid washing, it needs refilling, it needs new pump systems. All these things happen. Now, Marlon, real quick, because I want to hit on this. In case these things happen, then what? Is it the end of the world?
No, you communicate. In fact, I literally had a case right now where we had a squatter. We just found out there was a squatter in one of our properties, one of our vacant units over the weekend. And the conversation is very straightforward. Like I literally just keep my lender involved and just let them know, hey, this is what's going on. This is what we're going to do to take care of it. And do you have any questions? And they're like, no, glad. Thanks for literally the conversation is always this. No, thanks for the update. Do you need any help with anything? That's the conversation with my lenders.
So easy. And guys, he's absolutely right, because with a lot of my lenders, right, over the last 2 years, last year and a half ish, one lender specifically who's been an amazing person for us. They've lent, I believe, on 9 deals. So they partnered with 9 different operators and lent them money to put into deals, and then they're waiting for stuff to come back. I believe of those 9, 7 went to crap. That's a horrible rate. That is a horrible success rate, right? Where we have money not coming in, deals are falling through. It's been a bad experience. The only 2 people where the experience hasn't been unfortunate and it hasn't been bad, and they're actually willing to lend again to, are me and then someone else who's who we all 3 know very well. And on our deal, nothing has gone wrong yet. Nothing's gone wrong. Like we've had preliminary issues with, like, hold times and things like that, just normal stuff. But what we made sure that we made the payments on time. With their other person that they lent to, they had like some big fires happen in the deal. And then this other person did something freaking amazing. And this is how you truly take care of lenders, is the deal basically blew up. Something happened. I think it was a fix and flip, and they just, stuff happens, right? And then instead of like telling the lender, like, 1, they can over communicated the problems. And then 2, they basically actually reached into their own pocket to make sure the lender got their payment that month, when they didn't have to. When their source of paying the lender back was, like, let's just say through their own funds or through cash flow or through revenue, they didn't do that. Instead of saying, hey, we can't pay you back right now, what do they say? What do? They reach into their other vehicles that they make money in. And this person specifically has a coaching business. And they said, hey, because my integrity is the most important thing out there, they're going to go ahead and pull money from their coaching business to pay off the lender and make sure they're taken care of. So guys, like, it's okay if deals go south. It is natural. It's the law of entropy. Things will break. The real big kind of question is, how do you respond to them? So I absolutely wanted to hit on that.
Yeah, man. It's funny because that actually, and I'll be honest, right? Like, that's actually happened to me. That happened on a deal not too long ago where it was just an absolute Murphy's Law kind of property. And like, to this day, like, I kind of laugh at like just how terrible we as operators were with it. And it's also the reason I discovered me, terrible operator. Terrible operator. I'll be the first to admit it. Don't call me and ask me to be your operator. I'm not going to say yes. But I'm great at finding good operators and partnering with them, which is what I do now. And so with that property, a lot went wrong. Issues happened here and there. I kept my lender in the loop. And what occurred was, at some point, I told my lender, and this is a promise I make to almost all of my lenders, that if something happens, I will personally cash you out with the money that we have in the bank. Right. And so there's something nice about that as well. Like, although I have money in the bank, I preserve it as a reassurance of if something ever did go wrong. And I was able to do that with this lender, right? I let her know, like, hey, listen, what I'm going to do is I'm literally it was over a 6-figure cash out. I cashed her out with income that we had sitting in the bank already. And because of that, I was able to preserve the trust with her. Although the deal had gone south, although the deal had gone longer than needed. In the long term, we turned the deal around. It actually worked out better because we added it to our portfolio and we just refied it. But the initial plan was to simply sell the property. And it just wasn't selling due to poor workmanship by terrible contractors and an absolutely horrible property manager or project manager. Anyhow, all this to say, what allowed me to preserve the relationship was, instead of saying, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, the deal's not going how it's supposed to, I'm going to keep you locked in here, and I'm going to, I'll pay you off when this happens in the future. And when the deal finally does sell, then I'll pay. No. Listen, when you gave me your money, you put your trust in me. I'm going to make sure that I honor the original agreement that we had. You said 12 months. Here's your money. Did I sell the deal yet? No. Does this hurt me? Do I want to do this? I don't want to do this. This does hurt me. But more important is honoring the relationship and honoring the promise I made. If y'all embody that, trust me when I say you will have a much better time raising private capital, a much easier time raising capital. So I see we got some questions in the chat. What up, Jonah? What's happening, bro?
Jonah.
Jonah's got a question. He says, how do you guys sell a wrap?
There's multiple ways you sell a wrap. It really mostly depends on what market you're in. There's a few things you have to be really careful with. You know, I learned this the hard way as far as like wraps. You have to really pay attention to your market, like what's going on in the area. There's a lot of people like sending me deals like 10% entry and, you know, it's a good rate. You know, you can see the payments, the monthly payments are like 2,500 and the rents in there are like $2,000. I'm like, hey man, I'm going to need to be less than 10% in on that deal, because I know for a fact in that area, most likely to find a wrap buyer that's going to pay $3,000 when rents are $2,000, it's going to be like within 10% of that population from my experience, which means you have to be really careful. People send me deals all the time. Yeah, this is going to be a good wrap. I'm like, okay, great. Give me 3% entry fee. What? Yeah, I'm serious. Give me 3% entry fee. There's been tons of deals I've had that I've had to leave money in the deal, and it's fine because we're cash flowing like $1,100 a month, $500, $800, but we didn't sign up to leave money in the deal. So learn that the hard way. So the easiest way to find wraps, I've tried listening with the realtor. I've tried Bandit Signs, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, calling credit companies, and the best that really works out, it's really going to be Facebook marketing. You have to communicate really well, because a lot of people in Facebook marketing, when you're selling a wrap, you have to explain it to them to a point where you just can't confuse them, because they're just going to automatically think it's a scam. Everyone virtually trying to find a home. Wait a minute, I can get approved. You don't need my credit doesn't matter. Oh yeah, whatever. So you have to be really careful on how you explain that to the potential buyer. And in realtor, I've had success with realtors where we list it, and then you have a bunch of realtors like, hey, I have a family that couldn't get approved on this next home. I want to see what your terms are on this property. And that's the best two things that works best for me is just listing on the market and Facebook Marketplace. Craigslist works too as well still. Bandit Signs does really well here in Texas. So yeah, that's really what works best for me. What about you guys? You guys have any other takes on it?
Yeah, I kind of want to share something. I'm going to be the first one right now to say what I'm about to share with you is something that I do not do myself. I repeat, what I'm about to share with you, I do not do myself. This is actually, as Alejandro was talking, it made me like think about my buddy. I got a buddy up in Canada. He and his business partner have been doing lease options for the last about 7 years. And lease options, in my opinion, are very, very similar to wraps. As far as the mechanics, it's the same concept, in my opinion, right? The only difference is instead of letting the seller stay inside or the buyer stay inside the home for 30 years before they've got to do something, you're giving them like 3 to 5 years before they've got to balloon you out with a refinance. Very, very similar structure, though, a very similar conversation. And what he and his partner did that was so freaking genius was they created a very official website that looks very much like a traditional website that you would go to with like a bank or a very established company. And on that website, they actually paid somebody to put together. You guys are familiar with those videos that they like have like the guy that draws things out with their hand and like they over it. They created a video like that breaks the process down and explains the process in about 2 minutes. And it very much teaches them and educates them right then and there in the process. And so now it has this very official look and feel. In fact, let me show you guys for a moment. I'm going to share my screen just for a second because it really is impressive. And I think because it's so easy to get away with not needing to do all this official stuff, we sometimes get lazy with building our business. But if we still came back and like built out our business, This is his lease, his rent to own like website. So you come here, you see there's, our rent to own process, what are rent to owns, right? The 4 steps. It's very well put together, like a wholesaler's website, right? They have all the breakdowns. And more importantly, what do they have here? The success stories, right? Bad credit, no problem. And you're going to see inside here, you'll be able to come in and see what have other people said, what have other people done. And what is super cool is their map, right? If you zoom in on the map, they'll actually show you all the other deals that they've already done, right? So 24 deals in this area, they've already done 10 deals in this area, 3 deals in this area, 6 deals in this area. So now as a person who is a total stranger to the company and to the organization, I see this and it helps eliminate all that fear because it's getting that third-party verification. It's like all these things come into play with now my buyer. When I'm looking for that wrap buyer, I can just say, hey, go to our website. And boom, again, it's the same way as like raising money. I just established authority. I established authority and credibility instantly. My website's going to do the heavy lifting. I just got to go out there and prospect like Alejandro's doing on the Facebook group and send them there. Now, again, I just told you all, I'm giving you advice for something that I don't do because I don't focus my business on wraps. But this is just a fundamental, right? This is just a fundamental of business that if I can establish authority and credibility, it will help alleviate objections. So I hope we answered that question for Jonah because we also
was really good, bro. Love that website.
Yeah.
Can you text it to me? I'll love to study that. Probably put something together.
Yeah, that was super. I mean, I learned something there too, especially with the hand drawn over. Like that's like that early 2000s or mid 2000s kind of webinar thing. It was like a funnel back in the ClickFunnels days. Like the fact that they're still running those things is pretty stellar, and those things just look so good that credibility is never an issue. But I think that's good for that one. Let's jump to the next question.
Homie's working though. Your friend is working, bro. 10 deals.
We'll talk about it all the time, but like they crush it.
Well, let's jump to the next one, guys. We got
a question from Kyle. What up, Kyle? Shout out to Kyle. He was just at the Mind Over Matter mastermind 2 weekends ago. So what's the most efficient way to grow your buyers list? I'm going to let Sam handle that because Sam's Mr. Cartel.
Yeah, we are officially now Mr. Cartel. So there's multiple ways, okay? There is the free way. There is the not free but still cheap way. There is the not necessary, and it's it's going to be a good price and a good amount of work, and then there's also going to be basically the pay to cut the line. Now, I think when efficiency is concerned, I'm gonna look at labor intensiveness. To me, I think the best way to rig your buyers list is getting InvestorLift. Personally, we officially now have cartel mode on an InvestorLift, so we have every single buyer. We've got 4.585 million buyers. So, and it also costs a lot of money. The second tier underneath that also costs a lot of money, and that's okay. The base one costs a bit of money as well. But what you can instantly do pretty much overnight is rig your buyers list to be active, to be efficient and effective, and you can utilize it as a proper disposition tool. Now, if that's just not in the cards right now, funding-wise, but you still want to get the efficiency and the effectiveness of Cartel or of InvestorLift, then I recommend JVing with someone who has the access. That is truly, in my opinion, how you kind of skip the line in terms of dispositions. And if I was going to go back and redo dispositions and build it from the ground up, I would actually do exactly that. If I had no money, I would actually go and get in line with someone who does have Cartel and then work out a JV agreement with them to basically say, hey, I'm going to stay in my lane of killing it in acquisitions. Every single deal I get, I don't even want to think about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to know crap. All I need is your disposition manager to list it on InvestorLift, blast it out, get a bidding war going, close on the deal, and then take 30, 40, 50%, totally fine. Why? Because it allows you to streamline your process, focus on one lane, and within about 2 to 3 months, you should have more than enough money, if you've done it right, to be able to go and buy your own license. That is, in my opinion, the right way to do it. I think there are obviously cheaper ways to do it. One of those is going to be through softwares that are a lot more affordable upfront, I would say. Things like PropStream is a good one for finding cash buyers. The thing about PropStream is it's going to be a little bit more labor intensive. And then you're also going to have to supplement the ease of communication with those folks. So there's things like that. I think there's also a really slept on strategy right now. I actually talked to a high level operator about this. And this isn't even about growing your buyers list, but this is about how do you sell your deal for like a real high level sale or a high liquidity sale, is something that we don't really talk about much. And that's flat fee MLS. A lot of my friends right now who are really crushing it on dispositions, they're pretty much making all their money doing one of two things. They're either A, selling through Cartel Investor Lift to a hedge fund, and hedge funds are back. They're paying a lot of money again, which is amazing for wholesalers. We're getting really fat assignment fees right now. It's either that, or they're basically doing their dispositions through an MLS flat fee. So they're basically allowing the MLS, which has tons and tons and tons of agents, just scouring that. People have automatic notification setups kind of going. It basically allows the buyers to come to you, and you've got this kind of sweet inbound. We talk about inbound versus outbound on the acquisition side. We don't really talk about it on the disposition side. When you utilize two tools like that, the cool thing is those relationships are coming inbound to you. You're going to blast out the deal to everybody, and only people who are actually interested are going to respond to you, or they'll bid on it. And then it allows you to, in that transaction, have the psychological control and the sales on the B2B side, basically trying to get the highest assignment fee that you can. So those are the two things I would recommend. If you want to be absolutely frugal with it, then you can actually go straight to county record. Even you can actually go to the most. You can go to your title companies. And here's another great. I think something that we've talked about in the past is go to your investor friendly title companies in your market, in your area, and ask them who's transacting the most, who's closing the most, which wholesaler or which flipper is buying the most deals per month right now. And if you connect me with them, every single deal I sell to them will do through your title company. So, I believe, Mr. Alvarez actually has a pretty dope YouTube video on this specific topic.
Oh yeah, that's a cool video. I forgot about that.
It's a cool video, yeah. So you can also, because right now we're kind of limited on our time frame, you can go to Alejandro's YouTube channel and then actually go watch his video on how to find buyers. But if you want to cut the line the shortest, quickest way and get your deal sold, like you don't want to take a lot of time on dispositions, I say JV with someone who has cartel access or lieutenant access on Investor Lift. That could be someone like me. That could be maybe a few other people. If you know anyone who has it, that's the quickest way to get the money coming in and to expedite your access to a tool like that.
Yep.
It's good enough.
Love it.
Epic.
All right. Let's see. What do we got next? Shout out to Teresa. She just said, wish more borrowers had that perspective earlier when we were talking about protecting your private capital's money. Let's see.
Marlon, you're like the king of reserve. I just want to put that out there. This man has reserve accounts for years. Like, bro, Marlon, whenever he says, "Hey, I'll cash out with my own cash," he means it.
I'm a very conservative investor. That's why. It's everyone has a different risk tolerance. And for me, I'm very, very conservative, which my lenders love because essentially I don't get into risky deals. So very rarely does a deal not work out. In fact, that was the only deal there's only been 2 deals ever that I've had lenders on that didn't work out. At least
that was one. I'll go ahead, Mom. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I was going to say that was one of my biggest takeaways when I went to Arizona, and you were like showing me how you have everything structured. I'm like, wow, I'm looking at this a little bit different.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. Yeah, I try to be very, very, very calculated. So let's see. Kalisha says, yeah, Facebook Marketplace is really good leads and run the sponsored ads. So that's talking about getting the buyers for wrap deals. Jacob Karp says, do you guys do novations? I think Alejandro.
I was gonna say ads when you do it on Facebook, also post it to like the Facebook groups, not like the investor Facebook groups, but like you'll find Facebook groups that says buy and sell real estate, owner finance real estate. Like you'll see a bunch of popular groups, and depending on what what states you're in. Here in Texas is freaking huge. Like you have Hispanics, you have market groups for a lot of the real estate. So when you post stuff like that, you get a lot of comments, you get a lot of people reaching out to you.
And let me ask, Alejandro, do you make your ads bilingual? Do you make 2 ads?
I don't do 2 ads. I just really put it on the bottom. Se habla español.
Okay, cool. So you let people know that you or someone on your team does speak Spanish.
Correct.
Love that. So, guys, that's a big tip right there, because a lot of times the ideal buyers tend to be, they tend to be day laborers. They tend to be guys that make good cash who don't have credit yet. Some of them just got to the country. They're still establishing the citizenship. They're still establishing credit. And that's why they can't just go to the bank. So although they have the cash for the down payment, they have the cash to be able to make the monthly payments, they don't have the ability to get the bank loan.
Oh, last thing. I also want to say, because this is something people are just so stuck on, is like when they're doing these reps, they're running all these numbers. Okay, this down payment, this monthly payment, this interest rate. Cut it out. Just stop. What you need to do is determine what cash flow you would like minimum. And the way I like to market, like whenever I put it on Facebook for rent, I just put it for around, whatever the market rent is. And that's just, I'm marketing at the payments and interest, not taxes and insurance. A lot of people tend to do that. And then the payments are way higher than the market rent. And you miss out on talking to a few potential buyers, because buyers needs to understand that that's the taxes and insurance as well. So whenever you reach out to them, like, hey, this is the payments, you do XYZ before tax and insurance. But the first thing people ask me, hey, what down payment, what's the rate, blah, blah, blah. I always say this, it depends. For a lot of people's favorite word, it depends on what type of monthly payments you're looking for. Because there's been times where I've seen people had buyers that, hey, all we looking is for $30,000 down or $20,000 down. But that potential buyer may have 60 grand down. You don't say any numbers. Don't say any numbers at all. Just ask them, hey, what kind of down payment are you comfortable with? Well, I have 50K I can put down. And this is a deal that you probably thought you can market for 10 grand. You just never know who you come across. So for me, whenever I market wraps, I don't care about the sell price, really. I don't really care about the interest rate. I don't care about all I care about is like, let me push it for specific monthly payments that's going to track the demographics in that area. So that way I can start having conversations and then get to understand. Because I have properties that market rents are $2,800, and I have a wrap buyer that's paying close to $4,000 a month. That one deal is bringing me $1,100 a month. So net. So imagine if I was to, hey, yeah, I just want $2,800 a month. Look how much money I would have left on the table. So keep that in mind. So the wrap buyer determines what you're going to sell the price for. And this is something Pay says really, really early on in the first 6 weeks course, I believe. He was like, you're a buyer. He says it so many times. Your buyer determines the buy price. Your buyer determines the buy price. Stop struggling and being stuck on underwriting, on trying to figure out how you're going to market this deal. Dude, just market it for market rent and talk to people. You'll find someone that's going to pay something that's going to work for both parties. So that's another tip there.
Love it. Jacob asked, do you guys do novations? I personally don't. Yeah, I don't. I'm just going to say it. I don't. And there's 2 strategies on novation. So I'm curious as to which one Jacob's talking about, because there's novations like what Sam mentioned, where basically you're just taking a property and listing it on MLS. And that's one way. If I were to novate, that would be the only way I would go about doing it. I'm not a fan of the homeowner holds on to the property, I fix it up, and then we try to sell it on the back end. For me, way too many moving parts, and I don't want to be in business partnership with the homeowner. But I don't know, Sam, Alejandro, do you guys do novations?
No, never done it. I think we may have tried maybe once or twice to dispo it, to wholesale it. I wonder if it worked out. I'll have to ask my team, see if that actually worked out. We tried that, but me personally, no, I'm good. I haven't tried it. Perhaps maybe one day, whenever I have, a lot, just bunch of money hanging around like Sam and Marlon, maybe one of those days.
Yeah, we don't touch novations. Just because the reality is a novation is probably a deal that could have better been off wholetailed. So I'd rather wholesale to something like a hedge fund than take the risk on a novation. Also, there is, if you don't do it right, there is a lot of legal gray zones there. So it's not that they're not fantastic. You can make a lot of money on novations. I know a lot of people who do that and they crush them. For us, we typically stay away from them just a little bit. I'd rather stick with kind of our wheelhouse of churning wholesales, just because it's a process that we're really freaking good at, and it's one thing that we've done a lot. And also with the wholesale, we are closing on it, so we do own the asset. And because I get such good rates with my private money lenders, that when we do close on it, it's not hemorrhaging. We usually work out a pretty phenomenal deal. And it's like the safest thing. So, and because I'm going to bring, with a novation, you're typically going to bring someone else's money to the game anyways, with like for rehab funding, whether it's 20K for a rehab, or if I'm going to bring in 250K for the buy price and the hold price on a wholesale, using someone else's money is using someone else's money. So I'd rather play the game where someone else's money is secured a little bit better. And we typically find that's kind of the way to go on wholetailing versus novations. Not to say that they're not an amazing avenue, because they absolutely are if you do them right. Let's jump to the next one.
All right, so Justin Pickle, love the last name, bro. Love the profile photo. What were the mistakes you were all making within your business that you had to change/adapt that help you amplify your growth the most? It might be skill, technique, mindset, routine. So what was it for y'all that in your business you changed and you started to see exponential growth? I already got
Bro, yeah, go ahead. For me, so many. I have to find a good one.
There's one word for me, and that word's focus.
Ooh.
That's it. That was the one thing that I changed in the beginning, Justin. I was like many other people, chasing every shiny object that popped up. Oh, we're doing novations now. We're doing multifamily now. We're doing gator lending now. We're doing fix and flips now. We're doing wholesale now. We're doing wholesaling businesses now. And like, none of these things are terrible. It was just I did not have enough bandwidth to take on all the things that I was entertaining in my life. And I was dropping the ball a lot. I was juggling and adding more and more. And eventually, like, all the balls I had up in the air were coming crashing down. And unfortunately, some of these balls are glass balls. So when they broke, they did not bounce back up. When they hit the ground, they didn't come back up. So for me, Justin, focus.
What you got, Sam? I know you went through some hoops. We talk about this all the time.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, I'm going to echo that, right? And I'm in a season of saying no right now, very much, because saying no right now is what's going to help me 10x all of my businesses and everything that I want to do. I will actually say that, man, I'm gonna piggyback a little bit on Marlon and like really kind of label it as entering a season of no. There will be a time in your career where you have the capabilities, resources, connections, networking. You have all of the puzzle pieces to capitalize on 25 different opportunity vehicles. But usually in the beginning, when you're younger and you don't have all those things, you truly can't. And when you try to capitalize on 20 different things, you will half-ass pretty much all of them. Or you're going to play this game of dilly-dallying and hoping one takes off. And the reality is you're not feeding any one of them enough for it to get enough data, for it to get enough traction to succeed. Like for the people who are really big on like ads, right? We were talking about Facebook ads earlier. It's the same thing. If you only have $1,000 a month ad spend and you want to run 30 different ad graphics with their each of them having their own unique targeting, the Facebook pixel is trying to disperse $1,000 to 30 things. And what ends up happening is you're not feeding any one of them individually enough. And then you're pretty much tainting your own results. You're basically shooting yourself in the foot before the race has even started. So season of saying no. 2, I think it was a big thing mindset wise, to get tremendous proximity, not to battle buddies. I'm gonna say something I know I've pissed off a lot of newer people when I say this, but this is one of the hills that I am okay dying on. I think that when you're new, you actually don't need battle buddies. because a battle buddy is typically someone who's relatively on the same level as you. And in the beginning, you actually need to decrease as much as possible the amount of time that you're spending with people on your level. And you need to maximize the amount of time that you're spending with people who are 10 steps ahead of you. And it doesn't mean that you're going to automatically try to do whatever the hell it is they're doing, but through the law of osmosis alone, you will grow. So I think a big thing for me is I've kind of made a name for myself for being the kid who came in and just got immediate, amazing proximity to probably some of the bigger players in the industry. And that helped catapult me. But that was a big thing is in the beginning, I spent a lot of time with people who were like on my level, and it wasn't anything against them. The second that I started spending all my time with people who were doing 50, 60, 100 million plus a year, and I started learning from them, I started having quantum leaps in business and in myself as an entrepreneur. So yeah, do with that what you will. Alejandro, your turn.
That was a good one. I'm going to say is something that I found really fun is kicking out the activities that are not bringing the highest outputs. They're not producing the highest output. Because in my business, I'm really great at building system, but something that I lacked on is figuring out what fruits to put in that basket for that specific system. And I would have multiple different system, like I have funnels of leads coming in to a specific, to the whole end where you acquisition, you close it, you dispo. But then there's other systems and other parts of the conveyor belt that you can easily remove, not necessarily because they don't work. It just, for example, like I have a channel that takes 200 leads a month, and we'll probably get 2 contracts or something. And then I have another channel that takes 50 leads to get 5 contracts. So what we do, we have both those channels working, but what we're really missing on is that 50 lead channel. We can add more time to that and we can increase our output because they're much profitable and they're much easier to attain compared to the 200 lead channel, which is fine. It works. It's just, it's harder to scale because now you're putting so much time and you have to bring in another employee, then you have to add more to the system. So for me, it's like, let's find where we can simplify the system where minimal input with high productivity and high outcome. And this is something, that I would even love to talk to Sam about, because Sam is really good at these things. It's just, hey, bro, cut that out. Stop using it. Don't work it. So I had a lot of those things in my systems where like, okay, I got to let this go. I got to let this go. I got to let this go. And every time I let something go, stuff starts to increase as far as revenue, which is the most important thing, right? Because that's how we feed our family. That's how you continue scaling your business. So that would be my biggest learning experience. And there's tons and tons and tons, man. I've learned so much over the years, especially hanging with Sam and Marlon and Daryl and being in the community. I've learned so much, man. And I always look forward to learning something new every single day. And that's another thing I would give you guys advice on, just a tip. If you're wanting to be successful and you're not, how do I say STFU in the nicest way, in the most professional way, Marlon? Just
you're not listening enough.
Yeah, just chill out. Like, be quiet. Shut up. I had to just say it. Just shut up. Like, chill. Like, if you're around people that are making more money than you, just chill out, bro. Stop trying to compete. Stop trying to bring your point across. Listen to what they're doing. And if for some reason your magical brain thinks of something that can better that system, great for you. Keep it to yourself and then go investigate on your own. But being around, I've helped so many people throughout my year of in real estate. And there's people that come to me for advice, but then they question the advice every single time with a rebuttal that just has nothing to do with, taking that action. Like, just chill, bro. Just go take that action. It doesn't matter what it is. Absorb it. Go do it. Hey, man, you're making 30 grand a month. You're making $200,000 a month. and I'm making $2,000 a month. Whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do it. And this is something that I enjoy doing. Anytime someone brings an idea or gives me advice on what to do, and they're doing better than me, I don't question anything, nothing. My only question that I may have, okay, how do I start? How do I start? How do I do that? How do I accomplish that? That's it. And then I go move on to my next step. And then if I have trouble moving on to the second step, I'd be like, hey, man, I already did the first step. What's the second step? That's it.
I want to, obviously running up on time. I think we're probably going to going over a little bit today, but I want
Oh
to.
my God, it's already 50 minutes. That's
Yeah,
insane.
yeah, and we got a lot of questions to get through, so we might end up speeding it up. One last thing I want to say on that, this is something I've realized. Alejandro, absolutely. Like I feel like I am becoming the king of doing leverage studies, which is determine the leverage of whatever activity you're doing, find the ones that have horrible multipliers, kill them, find things, and replace that time that just opened up with higher leverage activities. It is how you become a billionaire. But the reality is this, something just clicked in my mind, dude, is, people, they're around people who are making a ton more money than them, and they never shut the hell up. But two, one thing that I'm actually realizing so much, I pay over $100,000 per year in mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
One big thing, if I have to look back at myself, right, and I'm looking at me a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, I would literally grab myself by the shoulders and I would tell myself to stop being so damn cheap. Stop penny pinching. That was a big thing for me. And I got a DM from someone today who was just like, yeah, I'm going to put some money into lead gen. And if it doesn't get me a deal in like a day, then I'm not going to do it. And then it doesn't work. I'm like, that's it. So you're just going to give up on all of business. So I would say one, reframe your relationship with spending money. If you want to truly succeed in this business and any other business after this one, you got to spend. I pay for proximity all day, every day, because the people worth spending your time with and worth learning from and worth hanging out with, trust me, it is not easy to get their time, but a lot of times you can't pay for it. That's a big thing for me. But let's move on to the next one.
Yep. So let's look here. Shout out to Anthony. He said, yo, what's up, guys? Been watching your channel last night. Straight fire. So much value. It's very addicting, making you just want to be here more. So, Anthony, appreciate you, bro. Let's see what Victor's got to say. Yeah, Ron preaches lease options a lot. Landon, for SMS campaigns specifically targeting divorces, what do you recommend for the message of the first text? Great question.
I can take that one.
Yep.
So it depends on the list that you're targeting, right? If we're going specific to divorces, I love that he said specifically targeting divorces. For anyone that's doing SMS outreach right now, I know Dustin Reyna's in the chat. Dustin's watching. Anyone who's doing SMS outreach or cold outreach in any way, shape, or form, you need to now be even more tailored in your outreach. With carriers cracking down, with spam being caught a million miles away, variability is truly your friend. Variability and specificity is your friend. So with divorces, you're not probably going to want to go and be like, hey, I know your husband cheated on you. Do you want to sell me your house? Probably not the method, right? Or if you're reaching out to the man, hey, was the other girl worth it? It's probably not the right text to reach out with. So on that one specifically, because there's a lot of potential emotional tie there, I would keep that one specifically a little bit more open-ended and a little bit more specific to the topic or to the topic of the property. But conversely, if you're going after something to the effect of foreclosures, it's emotional, but you can make it about the property in the right way. Don't say, hey, my name is Sam. I'm an investor. I want to buy your house. I know you're in foreclosure. It's not the right way to go. Instead, on our foreclosure outreach, we actually come at it in an almost in consultative / counseling kind of role, which is, hey, my name is Sam. We specialize in helping people who are being harassed by banks. And then we just kind of let that sit. And usually what ends up happening is the messaging and kind of the ad copy is straight up to the effect of we're helping people who are being harassed by banks, right? Have you been able to resolve the issues that you have going on with the bank right now, or do you need help? And at this point, I'm not an investor. I'm not a wholesaler. I'm not a flipper. I'm not trying to buy your house. I'm actually on your side, and I'm going to help you fight the banks. What ends up happening is it positions us the right way. So whatever data set you're targeting it, find out their emotional pain, find out how far is too far, and cater the approach the right way.
Love it.
Next
Yep.
one.
Great response.
All right. How do you choose a good business partner? What up, Paola? That's a great question. So, I'm gonna take a piece on this, and then I'll let you guys kind of eat it as well. But choosing a good business partner, in my opinion, starts with first for yourself establishing who you are and what your core values are. If you have not yet understood and established your own personal core values and your personal principles, what you say yes and no to, essentially, what is the governing doctrine of your life and your decisions, you're not yet in a position to get into a business partnership or relationship. You need to know first and foremost what is your line in the sand that you are not willing to cross, and what are your standards and expectations. When that is clearly established and clearly defined, then you are in a position to go out and look for a business partner, because until you have that established, you can't even begin the conversation with them, because you're not starting off with a good foundation. So that's going to be first and foremost. Secondly, when choosing a good business partner, it is important that you're not just picking somebody who's identical to yourself, right? The understanding, or the old, if I had two of me, then we'd get so much more done, is an absolute farce. Like, it's not true. If there were two of you, there would be even more inefficiency than there currently is. What you need to find is somebody who is your opposite, right? You're the same when it comes to core values, you're opposite when it comes to skill set. If you're the outgoing person, your business partner needs to be the behind the scenes systems person. You want to find people that have complementary skill sets. So establish what are your superpowers, what are you good at that you can become great at, that you can become world class at, and establish what do you absolutely suck at. And when you're looking for partnerships, look for people that will bring in your weakness as a strength. And ultimately, when you think about a mathematical equation, it shouldn't be 1 + 1 coming together to create 2. It should be 1 + 1 coming together to create 27, because it should be that much of an exponential growth. So at the bare minimum, if you partnering with a person doesn't at least triple production, at bare minimum, triple production, it's a terrible partnership. If someone comes to you, if me and Sam partnered and all we did was double our business, it'd be a terrible partnership, because then essentially I net the same as when I was by myself, except all I bring on now is more stress and expectations. Not worth it. It has to be worth it. So that's my answer on partnership. You guys got anything on that as well?
I would say just set the right expectations, be upfront. Like, for example, something I learned is that I'm going to start doing any time moving forward in partnership is like, here's what I'm good at and here's what I'm willing to do. Anything outside of that, I'm not the guy. That's it.
Love it.
So just be really upfront. There's no, okay, we'll figure it out. There's, okay, let's see how it goes. Don't do that. Just giving you a heads up right now.
I'll say this is not about how to choose a good business partner, but this is how to have a successful business relationship. To find your exit. It's something that 99.9% of partnerships do not do. Is they rush into it and they rush into all the things that they will do to make it work. They very rarely talk about all the things they will do if it does not work. So in the event that the partner you choose ends up being a cocaine addict and is in line to go to federal prison and you just had no idea on the front end, that's okay. Know what the amicable separation will inevitably look like if one happens. Have that discussion, set expectations, like Alejandro said, it's like, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm bad at, but also let's set expectations with each other. If this doesn't work out, how do we exit this without burning every bridge on earth? That's something that I feel like not enough partnerships ever talk about. That's probably one of the biggest missing links out there.
Yeah.
All right. D. Cornell asked, best way to find end buyers. Just because we're at the end of this episode, that's something that we covered at the beginning of the episode. So just go back to the beginning or go to Alejandro's YouTube channel. He actually made a great video on that. Alejandro, if you could drop that in the chat, that would be perfect. Just share it.
Yeah, I'll do it now.
Dylan Good says, if you guys had to start over, what would you do differently? I'm going to answer this one because very quickly, it's the same advice I give to everybody else. I would have found a seasoned operator and I would have gone and worked for them, whether it was internship or just getting a position inside so that I can see the entire business model from the inside. I can make money while I was doing it, and it would give me proximity to a top producer. So I would have done that. I wouldn't have just worked for anybody. I would have done whatever it took for me to weasel my way in to the top producer in the space whose life I wanted to mimic financially.
Yeah, I've got nothing to add to that. That's perfect.
Same.
Sweet. Ronnie asked, hey guys, can you share the web link? Ronnie, I'm not sure. Are you talking about that website I shared earlier? Just leave another comment and let me know. Anthony Johnston says Pace is doing a Gator pop-up right now. Hope you can upload this today. I would love to listen after. Anthony, no worry, just come on back. Let's see. Bo Johnson says, where do you guys see yourselves in the next 5 to 10 years? Vision of the future is key for me. Bo, that's a great question. Somebody asked me this over the weekend at a meetup. He came up to me. He says, listen, I'm going to give you less than 10 seconds to answer the question. You can't think it. You got to give me an instant response. This is a question that people ask Elon Musk, Oprah Winfrey, Jeff Bezos, yada, yada, yada. Says, where do you see yourself in 5 years? My honest answer, hanging out with my family, hanging out with my kids. I don't have kids yet, but in 5 years, that's my mission. I don't really care about anything else. I want to go and provide for my family and be in my home, hugging and loving all my kids and wife.
Yep. I would say for me is
Sorry.
traveling, having babies, having 2 properties next to each other, one for myself and the family, one for my grandma, my mom and her husband, and my sisters. I love that family vibe, man. You know, just being next to each other, having access to each other. There's nothing more peaceful than seeing your family smile in front of you, and that's just me.
I'm gonna answer this in three steps. On the family end, 5 to 10 years, I am going to be absolutely married, and I'm probably going to have a toddler. I'm looking at that 5 to 7 year, not the 10 year right now. Probably about that 5 year. Probably have like a little one running around, a little rugrat, who I'm absolutely doting on and absolutely in love with. On the friend side, Marlon, me, and Alejandro will have our matching catamarans that will all be matte black. We will be calling them the Bat Fleet, and we will be, sinking other ships on the seas. And then in the world of business, I will completely, exclusively be in the world of venture capital. It's the only thing I want to do. It's the only thing that I'm building towards. The only thing that matters to me is the route to get to $1 billion is through venture capital. And in 5 years, that is going to be my full-time gig.
Love it.
Nice.
All right. D. Cornell says, can I have a private money lender fund my business to 10X? How would I structure that? The short answer is yes. You can absolutely raise capital to get somebody in. The biggest question is, what would you be using that capital? How would infused capital into your business actually produce a 10X return? So what's the plan? What's the trajectory that your business is already producing? Is your business already potentially cash flowing, and an infusion would simply amplify what's going on? So, really how you would structure that, that's an entire conversation. That's an entire episode. But we would just need to understand what is the enterprise value of your business and what's missing from giving it a higher evaluation. And if it's a strong enterprise value, it can very easily raise private money, who would then fund that value to then 10X and growth, 10X and exponentially grow the business.
Yeah, I'll say this real quick. If I'm assuming that if you're here right now, you're probably in a real estate investment business, so wholesale business. Okay, so if you're funding an acquisitions business, your costs are probably going to be related towards marketing and lead generation. 100%. That is how I actually scaled in the beginning. Before I started making a ton of money on my own and funding my own stuff, I actually put nitro boosters on my machine by bringing in someone else's money, and I gave them the most insane profitable, like they got the big return and they got the majority of every deal. We can talk about that later. Shoot me a DM, and I want to see what you're thinking, because here's the thing. If you do it right, it is the fast track to success without a shadow of a doubt. If you do it wrong, you're playing with someone else's money, and that can have ramifications, and we want to make sure that we are being a steward of other people's capital the right way. But shoot me a DM on that one.
Love that. All right. Paula, we kind of went over this. How can we choose a business partner? Let's see. The same credit story. Let's see what we have here. The same credit story with a lot of Ukrainians. That's not a question. Shout out to Toby. Y'all are legends. Love you, Toby. Shout out to Brandon.
Can I just real quick give Toby some love? Toby, brother, if you don't know this, you should be getting a check or a wire today if you didn't already receive it from Tidal. Congrats, you just closed that deal.
Heck yeah. Congrats, Toby. I'm growing just from watching you guys periodically. Love you, Brandon. Shout out to Brandon. Justin says, appreciate the response from all of y'all. Dustin says, "Yo, Sam, you're looking cold. Stop penny pinching on the heating bill."
Yeah, he's completely right. He's completely right. I need to take my own advice right now.
So funny. I think we got all the questions tonight. So,
I had
and
a
then there's
yeah
one
that
more from Adam.
yeah that one right there.
When you RMLO a seller finance deal, when would you RMLO a seller finance deal?
I will do that all the time. You don't have to. I would this is just advice I got from my mentor. Again, someone that does more money than I am, someone that's 100 times more successful than I am.
Real
I
quick
just,
before you keep going, because some people are like, "What the hell's a RMLO?"
that's
It is
true.
a residential mortgage loan originator.
Yeah.
I know how some people's brains are, and they are not listening to any words that are coming out of your mouth because they're still asking, "What's an RMLO?" So
Yeah.
an RMLO is a residential mortgage loan originator. This is somebody who originates mortgages. All right.
Yep.
Please.
And if you don't know what that means as well, like myself, sometimes people give me a definition of a definition and I need a definition for that definition. I'm like, what? I still don't get it. It's just someone that underwrites the potential buyer to the home, to the property to see if they qualify, see what kind of monthly payments, and then they will tell you, hey, this person doesn't make enough money. I don't advise you to sell them the home. Again, they can only advise you. They don't necessarily make the decision for you. But I will do it all the time. Uh, the reason why my mentor said to do so is because it's easier. It's a lot more attractive if you want to sell that note, deed of trust, a promissory note. For those who don't know what a note is, it's just pretty much that note that states the amount that person is paying you. Let's say, for example, there's a $50,000 note. They're going to pay me $50,000. It's 9% interest. $500 a month. If that note has been underwritten by an RMLO, it's more attractive to a note buyer. There's people that would buy that note from you and they'll be like, oh, wow, he already underwrote the person. Great. I'll give you, a little bit more. Some people will probably give you 50 cents on the dollar for something that didn't go through an RMLO. And then they will buy it for 80%, 90%, even 90% if it's, underwritten properly and structured properly. So I would do it all the time. Doesn't cost much. You can probably find one for like, I don't know, $400, $500.
Also a phenomenal connection for you to have in your business outside of that, just outside of using them for that specific topic. That person is going to be a conduit for other LOs, and having as many people in that sector in your back pocket is amazing. But 100%, everything he said right, guys. We are completely over time, and it's because we like to answer a lot of questions. We actually have a great amount of, so I'm actually, just because this is a really good one, I'm gonna say this in a snippet right now. Are there any opportunities to work with Partner Shadow, any of you? So now I'm gonna go
Guys,
ahead.
I'm gonna run. I gotta go make an important call. AJ, my answer is yes. If people want to work with me as far as lending, I'm always raising capital. So that's a great way to get into my world. But I'm gonna let Sam and Alejandro take this. Boys, I appreciate the heck out of you. I will be back here for next week Think Big podcast.
Thank you, Marlon. Brother.
Yeah, so and we're just gonna wrap it up right now. I'm gonna answer this. So for Marlon, 100%, he and I together, he's doing a lot of his own things that he's using a lot of capital for. He and I have basically come up with a new initiative that's pretty epic that he and I are both involved in, and we're actually actively looking for capital partners on that. Right now, for me, the only way to kind of get into my world, because I am in a season of hyper focus on doing the really big things that I want to focus on. The only thing that you can really kind of do with me right now is coming in as a capital partner. So if you're looking in for an entry and how to get some insight and some high level, basically insight, guidance, essentially free mentorship, in my world, and probably with Marlon's world as well, is coming in as a capital partner. So if you've got capital sitting on the sideline in a bank account that's just kind of withering away, shoot us a DM and we'll get you hooked up. But yeah, Alejandro, what about you?
Same thing, brother. Same thing. We're all open books here. That's something that's pretty much our main focus, Sam. All of us, really. Yeah. We've learned a lot, this year, and we've now realized what we really need to focus on as entrepreneur and face of our companies. So yeah, that's a good one.
Beautiful, guys. this is fun. This was really fun. We love doing Q&As because we like actually giving you guys specific answers to solve your specific problems. And we're going to do one again soon. I don't know when. It might be next month. It might be 2 months from now. It might be in 2024. Well,
Yeah.
it'll happen. If you guys got a lot of value, I only ask one thing. It's the dues that you have to pay. And that is to one, you're on, whether you're watching on my channel, Alejandro's channel, Marlon's channel, like and subscribe. When you like it, it actually tells the algorithm that this video is something that other people should see. And what's going to happen is it's not about serving us. What will inevitably happen is it will be shown to other people who are running into the same problems in business that you are. And so help us help them. That's our only ask, is that. And then one last final thing is if you guys get value out of this one or any of the ones that we do us a huge favor. Take a screenshot, and we're gonna do a big cheesy smile for y'all. But take a screenshot and then go ahead and post it on your IG stories. Link our YouTube channels. Help us grow so we can keep doing more and more and more of these because we have a great time doing it. All right, Alejandro, 1, 2, 3.